Welcome to Spirit and Flesh, an experience you will not soon forget. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spirit and Flesh. Glad you came back. Yeah, I'm sure liking that you like the show. You tell me in the streets all the time, so that's fun. I love you too. Look, today I'm going to be talking with Niki Rellon, and I'm going to stop running my mouth right now because nobody can tell the story better than she can tell it, having lived through it. Okay? So, Niki, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, let's begin at the beginning. You've been an athlete all of your life.
Pretty much, yes. I was a teenager when I picked up triathlons. And then after I did triathlons, I went to a gym and I saw guys who participated in kickboxing. And in the 90s, it was not really common for girls to spar with the dudes. So I really had to convince the coach several million times. And then finally he said to his co-trainer, well, if we let her participate one time, probably she will never ever try ever again to ask us.
One of those things,
right?
Huh?
Exactly.
Let her try. She can't do it, you know.
Right. Anyway, so I had a little bit of experience with karate, and so they let me participate. They gave me old-fashioned gloves, and I didn't have mouse protection. So he said to this opponent, "Don't hit her on the mouse." And so I was going right away into it. It was a 3-4 combination straight into his arrogant face, one straight kick in his liver, and he was starting almost crying. And so after 6-7 sparring rounds, finally I approved myself and I was invited ongoing. So that was my beginning of my amateur kickboxing career, and then I became a professional boxer and was boxing for the world champion title.
A professional boxer?
Amateur kickboxing. I was world champion in 1998 in Copenhagen. After I accomplished that goal, I was reaching for new goals, and that's the reason I started my professional boxing career. And in 2000, I was fighting for the world champion title. I did lose, but that was a whole different story by itself. But anyway, my life had probably turned out in a different direction. After that, I decided to bicycle to North America, from Alaska all the way down to Mexico City. And that's the reason I ended up with a green card, and then in 2011 I became US citizen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so starting in your teenage years, you were a triathlete.
Yes.
Okay, now for those of you who don't know what a triathlete is, she's a person who, now mind you, teenage years, right? She was a person who enters these competitions that go through almost every kind of sport.
Well, it's 3 sports. You start with the swimming event, the bicycle event, and then running.
And then running.
Right.
And you do this all in one competition.
Exactly.
You just go from one to the other.
Well, I mean, that's famous here. We're in Hawaii. I'm in Hawaii on a corner side. It's famous, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had a woman here. She was like 80-something years old, and she was still doing it.
Of course.
And I was like,
people getting addicted to it, like me.
Yeah. So you went on to become a boxer, and you took that as far as you wanted to take it.
Well, yeah, I reached the maximum in kickboxing world champion title, and then of course I reached out for new goals, and I was of course pretty close boxing, and I was reaching out for that title too, world champion title, but I lost, and I was okay because that's the reason my life turned out in a whole different direction. And
so after the boxing, what direction did you go in?
Well, I mean, I did a little bit more on my professional career. I was working then career as a professional caterer in cooking. I was a professional chef, and I worked in caterings all over Europe. I picked up a job on an American cruise vessel, Renaissance number 7, and I jumped on board in Sicily, and we sailed all the way up to Russia and Norwegian countries all the way down. And so I was working there for several months. And after that, I decided to bicycle from Alaska all the way down to Mexico City. I was planning originally to bicycle maybe 6 months or 1 year. I had a 1-year return fly from Mexico City. After 1 year, I was not in Mexico City. I was in New York City, and I decided, just as a fun thing, to burn my return flight ticket in an American pub. And I decided to stay another year. And after 2 years, finally, I made it. And After I bicycled all the way to Mexico City, I was flying back to Florida, and from Florida I bicycled up to New York City the second time. So I was pretty much bicycling both coastlines up and down, cross country twice, and all the way down to Mexico City. So it was like a distance over 20,000 kilometers. And after 2 years, I decided to fly back to Germany, live there for another year. But with that 2-year experience of bicycling, I had enough connections built up and figured out on my own how to get myself a green card. So in 2006, I got my temporary green card, and then I got into my permanent green card, and then 2011, I became citizen of the US.
Wow, wow, that's quite a story. Okay, so at this point, you're quite the athletic person. And am I moving too fast to go to the Utah experience?
No, that's the reason I'm sitting here, right?
Yeah, so you were in Utah, and what were you actually doing?
So it's called canyoneering. Canyoneering is the opposite directions and start rock climbing. You're not going up, you're going in a higher elevation inside the canyon, and you're working your way through, and there is like once in a while a couple rappels at Montezuma Canyon in Lake Powell, Utah. The last rappel was over 250 feet.
Now, for those who may not know what rappelling is, can you explain to them what rappelling is?
So rappelling is you have a harness and you click in a rope, and you have like a self-rappel that you can maintain their own speed, the way how fast you want to rappel down. And on the bottom of the canyon, you have a safety person who is your backup person.
Right.
So what happened on that weekend, the weekend before, I was rappelling with that same group, and then we met up the following week, but I did left and someone else struck my harness. And that particular harness I just got recently from one of the canyoneering guys, a French dude, who sold me his harness, because at that point I was not anymore together with my boyfriend. He was an ex, and I did not have his harness anymore, so I needed a new harness.
Oh, right, you needed a new one.
Exactly. So I got this harness from this French guy, Louis, and so he just really showed it to me. I used it in the previous weekend, left it in someone else's car, and we met up, and I grabbed it out. We started really early for canyoneering. You have to start at 4 o'clock in the morning because you want to make it out of the canyon before it gets dark again. So at that point in the morning at 4 o'clock, I didn't thought to double check my gear again. And then it was a beautiful sunshine day. We came to that final last rappel of 250 feet, and I just was excited to put the harness back on. And this is what I was trying to come across. If you have established a routine, the routine is the danger, because beginners, they're always nervous and double check.
Right.
I also a skydiver and a scuba diver, and as established a routine, because every time before we jumping into the airplane and go skydiving, we double check each other's gear. Same scuba diving, before we jump in the water, we double check the tanks, double check the regulator on everything. Everything is fine. Canyoneering is kind of a brand new sport. And so the routine is not being kind of established, and that's what I like to promote with people doing stuff like that. Always double check each other. Trust it takes less than 30 seconds, and it's a huge safety.
Safety first.
Safety first.
Before we go on, I always wondered what it was like to jump out of a plane. Now, I went in the Marine Corps, but my military service did not include jumping out of the plane. They had me doing something else. So I never got that experience. What is that experience like?
I hope I can say that, but I have to, because it's better than sex. And I had
Really?
It is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had incredible, awesome experience, and that's part of my life too. But you know, for me, as being a free spirit, and I'm addicted to freedom, this is the max of freedom you can reach out. I mean, I jumped out of Puerto Rico, jumping out of the ocean, so it's blue sky, blue ocean, everything is blue. I mean, that's just, you be feeling like a bird. I mean, if you have a swimsuit, I never done that before in my life, but that's even better, because then you really fly, actually. I mean, when you don't have the wingsuit, then you just flying straight down. With the wingsuit, you actually fly like a bird.
Oh, there's such a thing, a suit that has wings?
Yeah, it's like a wingsuit, because you have like material underneath your shoulder, material between your legs.
Yes,
and that gives you more resistance in the air, so you're actually gliding forward and start falling down. So this is the max of skydiving now in our modern days. But the fact, before I lost my leg, I was free falling out of the airplane, and I heard this crazy click sound, and my shoulder was dislocated. And when you're having a shoulder dislocation on your right side, because when you're free falling up in the air, you want to have a stable position. And if you're trying to reach your parachute, what is on your right side located, when you're reaching with your left arm over there, because I could not use my right side anymore, you will wrap your parachute around you like a burrito. Because as soon as you make that movement, you probably turn yourself on your back, and that's not a good idea to open your parachute because it's located on your back. So you want to open the parachute facing downhill, so belly down. So I realized, and I looked at my altimeter, I don't have much time anymore left, so I have to pull something, right? Because otherwise you hit the ground, right?
Yeah.
So I realized I have a reserve parachute. The reserve parachute was, thanks God, located on the opposite side right here.
Right.
And I was able to pull the reserve, and I employed perfectly. But I could not land anymore in the drop zone where I was supposed to be landing because I was drifting too far away. And then I had to look for myself in an open, free spot where I could land. And I thought I survived because I was sitting there and I was pumped hard, adrenaline rushing through my body, and then all of a sudden 15, 20 horses running super fast towards me. Horses, yeah. And they looked like they want to run over me and stumble me to death.
Really?
And then right before they got to me, they stopped and started sniffing at me. And then when I got up and looked for the rest of my parachute, they followed me. So it was really interesting.
Oh, well, yeah, I have heard that horses, and mainly horses. Somebody told me that they were somewhere and the horses were stampeding. And so they told everybody lay down on the ground, because horses, when they run up on human beings laying on the ground, they will not run over them.
Okay.
So that's probably why they stopped. I said, oh, hey.
I think they thought I'm a bundle of hay.
Hey, something to eat here, you know what I mean? Oh, boy, that's interesting.
So, yeah, we're talking about free fall. So, free falling I really like, but when I was rappelling 250 feet down, I started free falling again. I heard a similar click sound. This time my shoulder was not dislocated, but I heard a click, the disconnecting click from my harness to the rope.
Wow.
And at that point, free falling, what I like was not really that pleasurable anymore longer, because I knew I don't have a parachute. So I started screaming. A good thing, when I started screaming, I faded into unconsciousness, and that probably protected me from not to dying, because at impact, when your body is unconscious, you're not completely tied up with every inch of your body. So at impact, I landed first on my left foot, and with that impact, all my pelvic was being shattered like an open book fracture and a shear fracture.
Yeah.
With that impact, all my ribs were broken. My sternum were broken, my vertebra, the thoracic spine was like a chance fracture, so the spinal cord was still protected. And then I landed frontal forward, and thanks God I had a ski helmet on. And in the center of my ski helmet was a huge crack, and the next morning when I woke up in the hospital, I even had a headache. So it was like really a huge miracle.
So you actually hit the ground with no parachute?
No parachute, no nothing. It was just canyoneering. You're not skydiving, right? I mean, you have a harness, and your harness should do the trick. The fact was that I did not check the harness the night before. It was not looped in the right loop, and so to the metal loop, it was looped to the synthetic loop between the part where your whole legs holding together. So
this is what happened in Utah.
We're talking right now about canyoneering.
Yeah, canyoneering.
Canyoneering.
Yeah.
We talked about the accident why I lost my legs. So the harness was not configured right in the right order, and I don't know what happened, because the weekend before I was using the harness, and what happened in between I have no idea. I'm not blaming anybody besides myself, because I have the responsibility to check my gear, and I did not check the gear, and that's the reason why I came off the harness, because it was not put together, and I free fall the remaining of 45 feet, because when I started out rappelling down that cliff, I was spinning already really fast in 360-degree turns, really fast. And I knew it was a self-repel. I like to check out what was going wrong, but it was good that I was going so fast already in the beginning down, and as soon as I came to a complete stop on my own, that was causing me to disconnect the synthetic loop on the bottom, and that's the reason I was free falling the remaining of 45 feet. If I would not pulled on that rope so hard to come to a complete stop on my own, maybe I would came down further and it would probably less severe injured, but the fact I was spinning, I was trying to figure out what was causing the spin. That's the reason I pulled really hard on myself.
And all this is happening in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's rappelling, it's like you can go slow, you can fast, but I was going super fast because the configuration was wrong. And that's the reason I was descending super, super fast, and that was my luck. If I came off harness the beginning of 250 feet, I would have sitting here right next to you.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think the devil was too afraid of me. He was not ready for me yet.
You know, I ain't messing with her, you know. So when you woke up the next morning in the hospital, what was your first thought?
Not the next morning. I mean, the first helicopter could not land right next to me where I located, so they dropped off the nurse and the paramedic like 50 feet below the canyon. They had to climb up the steep canyon wall.
Oh.
And then finally I got pumped up with morphine because the pain was outrageous. I had severe pain already when I was a teenager. I broke already when I was doing triathlon. I had a bicycle accident. I broke already by then my neck and my back. But this pain was above and beyond, and the only way I stayed conscious because of the support from my canyoneering friends, because I was holding hands with, and that was going into turns because the grip of mine was so strong. You can see a little bit Popeye here left. So I was holding really tight to their hands because that was giving the mental support, because maybe if I would not had that mental support, I was probably fading into unconsciousness, and then probably I would not made it 8 hours later into the hospital, because the second helicopter was in a smaller helicopter, so halfway in the air and halfway on the ground. They shuffled me in a spine board in that smaller helicopter, just me and the pilot. And then they had further down the canyon in a flat spot, a rendezvous spot. So they shuffled me out and put me back in a bigger helicopter where the nurse and the EMT was waiting for me. And then it was interesting. The pilot said then, my airtime is over. I cannot fly Miss Rellon not anymore longer to Grand Junction to the hospital. And then the nurse was yelling to the pilot, if you not fly Miss Rellon right away, she will die. And then finally she convinced him, and then that was good because it was just a question, not an hour, 2 hours, because of the severe injuries. I mean, I had also a collapsed lung. It was amazing. I was still able to breathe with one side of my lung.
I'll say.
And I was still conscious when finally the surgeon approached me, and I had like a clipboard with a piece of paper that I should sign my name underneath, and I said, for what? I want to cut off your leg. Remember, I told you I was a boxer and kickboxer. I almost punched him. I still had enough energy left in my body, and I almost punched him and said, you're not cutting off my leg.
And that's the first moment when you realize, I'm going to lose my leg.
Well, I said, no, I'm not cutting off my leg. He didn't show me any proof. He didn't show me an x-ray. He didn't show me nothing. He just wanted to have my signature to cut off my leg. I said, no, you're not cutting off my leg. If you want to cut off my leg, well, guess what? I'm European. In Switzerland, legally is allowed to finishing up people's life. If you don't want to, because I don't want to see any reason anymore to continue on my life if you want to cut off my leg. He smiled sarcastically and he said then, well, guess what, Niki? Oregon is closer, because in Oregon, something like that is possible too. But anyway, so he realized...
Actually, I just read about that.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, I convinced him not to cut off my leg. So he performed surgery on me. I had a fixator next morning. I had a tube sticking in my mouth because I couldn't breathe anymore on my own. I had intravenous fluid, got also blood, several liters, because I was not much left anymore, because I was internally bleeding out in my throat.
How did they deal with the internal bleeding? How did they deal with that?
Well, I mean, there was not a miracle. That night was on call a specialized surgeon, because a shear fraction when the pelvic is broken upside down like this, it takes a really special kind of a technique to line up the pelvic 100% accurate. Again, you have to make x-ray after x-ray to make sure the pelvic is lined up like parallel together. So yeah, so this guy was on call, so it was another lucky thing that I had a specialized surgeon who could perform that surgery. So not even a fixator on my leg, I also had a fixator sticking out of my pelvic. It was like a huge rebar from here up all the way across. And then a tube in my mouth, the fixator on my foot, and intravenous pain pump, because the pain was just...
I imagine the pain was tremendous.
Yes.
Because it sounds like your whole body was just...
I was all beaten up. I mean, broken. All my ribs were broken. I could not breathe anymore on my own. I mean, just taking air inside my body was just super, super.
Now, at that moment, what was going through your mind?
Not much. You could get pumped up with drugs. So you cannot have a straight thought anymore.
You know, like, oh, okay, I'll deal with this. You know, so.
Well, the next morning, my friends showed up when I had to make a bunch of coordinations. I could not talk anymore because a tube was sticking out of my mouth.
Right.
So I had a blackboard and with a pencil, I was writing down what has to be done because I still had an apartment. It was month-to-month rent, and I told my friends, all my belongings, put it in my camper van. It was parked right next where I was from.
Right.
So then I have to pay ongoing bill anymore for my place. Also, I told one of my canyoneering friends, she was from Germany, so I gave my phone number for my parents to her to make that phone call that my parents at least will be notified what happened to me if I make it or not.
But at this point, they don't know anything.
Of course not. I mean, I'm living in that point in the United States for 10 years, and I'm living my own life since I was 17. I left my parents' house I was 17, so my parents had to get used to the fact that I'm the gypsy in the family, so I'm the runaway.
Yeah.
Itchy feet, we saying in the United States, so I cannot sit still a long time in a place.
My daughter is like that. She called me up one day. She's in the mainland, but she called me up one day and she says, Dad, I just wanted to let you know I just got back from Egypt. And I'm like, whoa, well, you know, you just got back. How about letting me know before you go?
Would you told her not to go?
Well, I probably would have. I said, wait a minute, at least take a couple friends with you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know, we just think like that when it comes to women. You know, because I'm a man. I know what some men.
Well, yeah, that's really an interesting part because I never understood why I was asking that question. Because when I bicycled from Alaska to Mexico City, when people approached me, first question, are you bicycling by yourself as a woman?
Yeah.
Are you not afraid? And it was really interesting why we women still have in the 21st century that kind of status that we have to have someone with us. Why can a guy, do that by himself? Because a guy would never get asked that question. But me as a woman, I'm getting this question always asked, especially in my later 20s when I was bicycling for 2 years. I never understood that, why we still having there a separation between guys and women, why we have that. Tell me, what do you think?
Well, I think it's because of the culture of America. Unfortunately, a lot of Americans feel better because they feel better than somebody else. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So there's this whole racial thing that's going on in America. Then there's the class thing too. You know, who's more educated? Who has more money? We all know that women basically are weaker than we are. You'd be surprised at how many people believe this. You know, and that's why it goes on like that. Even me. You know, sometimes I'm shocked. But you did it all by yourself? I mean, my goodness. Because I'm a man. I know how some men think. And some men basically have no control. None. They're just out there doing wicked things. They are. But that's a whole nother story.
Right.
You know, you're strong enough, you know, to get it done. So I say, do it. When we were growing up, we used to say, to each its reach, and let them grab all they can get. Exactly. You know what I mean?
You live only once. The life is, for me, in my opinion, a journey. It starts and it ends, and everything is in between. If you're waiting too long for your retirement, your body is not anymore able to do whatever you could have done when you're being in your 20s, because our best lifetime is being used up for our working career to make all this money where you can pay then off your mortgage for your beautiful, great, awesome house. But the house you cannot take with you, because all what you can take with you is your memories, your experiences. And I'm a true believer, so less stuff you have, there's more freedom you have, there's more freedom you have, there's more opportunities you gain in life to develop yourself in other perspectives what you never expected for. That's maybe the reason, because most people, if they lose a leg, they are devastated. And I was in denial and in depression and all kinds of crazy states in my life at that point too, because I was hospitalized for 4 months. And of course I was depressed, and I didn't want to live on anymore, because I was really frustrated, because my body was my vehicle. I was running marathons, I bicycled, and all of a sudden my leg was cut off. So how you want to deal with that?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What happened the day you came to the conclusion that, okay, they're going to cut my leg off?
that was like then 3 weeks later. And a good thing I was in the medical field. I had connections to a doctor who had connections to a different doctor, Dr. Hahn, a specialized surgeon who only does amputation. If I would have agreed with the first surgeon, he was a generic surgeon who does all kinds of different things. He was not specialized in amputation. So good thing I was stubborn. I didn't let him cut off my leg. So 3 weeks later, they transported me from Grand Junction to Denver, to my hometown. And because of that guy who I knew, I was able to have Dr. Hahn perform the amputation. And what happened is the tibia and the fibia, the two major bones, got fused together with a part of my bone from the remaining part, and there was like a bridge in between. So the tibia and fibia had like a bridge, and I was way more stable.
They were trying to heal each other?
No. So tibia and fibia will look like this in a regular amputation, the
right.
two major bones.
Right.
So they used a different part of my bone, what I cut off already, and made that connection in between. So they put a bone right here in between.
Oh,
so
they stabilized it.
This is a bridge. It's called the Erdl procedure. So if that bone in between stabilizes the two major bones.
Right.
So weight barrier, when you're getting that amputation done and you're getting the first time your prosthetic leg, bury weight on your stump, it's a huge support that you have that bridge in between. Otherwise, you don't have enough muscle build up or kind of tissue build up to support that weight. You major two bones will hitting right on the bottom. It will be very, very painful every time you're stepping and put weight on that stump with your prosthetic attached to it. So that was the reason why I was able, just 14 months after my accident, to make my walk to recovery, to hike the Appalachian Trail. There's a hiking trail that goes from Georgia all the way up to Maine. And I know better because doctors told me, because of my severe pelvic surgery injury, that I will have, that I had already severe nerve damage. And they thought, because of the nerve damage, I could not bury weight anymore, that I can contract my muscle in my leg. So they thought, give Ms. Rellon a $6,000 expensive wheelchair, pump her up with drugs, and let her live in her misery. So that was pretty much
that doesn't sound very positive.
Well, yeah, and the physical therapist Jake at Craig's Hospital was a very awesome hospital especially for people with severe nerve damage. She punched 10,000 needles in my rear end and told me, "Can you feel that?" And I felt like a fakir on a nail board. And I said, "No, I cannot feel that." "Well, you have nerve damage. You probably can never contract your muscles ever again." I mean, I was hoping she would encourage me and telling me, "Oh, you cannot feel it, but maybe whatever, later on they recuperate and you can still walk without support with a cane or crutches." So she was very negative in a way, and I was very upset. And actually, when people telling me what I cannot do, I even get more motivated to prove them wrong.
That's right, to go ahead and do it.
Exactly. So,
you know,
I never saw her ever again, but I felt like, guess what, Jake, I will prove that 100% wrong. When I did, 14 months later, what I did before, I was back in Germany, I got myself a beautiful bicycle again. I bicycle pretty much to every therapy session, so I bicycle at least between 30 and 60 miles a day. I went back to my old swim team, I went to yoga sessions, I hiked through the neighborhoods where I grew up, and so physical therapy is meant for like 3 times a week. That's like maybe an hour and a half max what you can receive on physical therapy, and most people think that's all what they have to do. No, that's my opinion. My opinion was, if I want to be back the way I felt like I could be the same person I was before, at least not with all, at least the leg is gone, but I thought the only way to get me back the way I was, I have to work out at least between 3 and 6 hours a day, and that's what I did. And because of that 6 hours working out every day, 14 months later, I decided to my walk to recovery, because living with my parents at that point, I did got depression stage 1, not because I lost my leg, because I lived with my parents again, and it was definitely time to find myself on an escape road, because the advice from doctors and family is not what you want to do, but they think it's good for you, but that doesn't mean it's good for you, because they said to me I should go back to school, learning a job, and having a desk job for the rest of my life.
Where you sit down all the time.
And guess what? I would have to go to school every day, 6-8 hours in severe pain. I would not have be able to concentrate on all the material, because if you're being in pain, how you can study, right? Can you study when you're being in pain?
Not when you're in pain.
Exactly.
And I imagine you were in a lot of pain.
Exactly. And I knew I cannot go to school and study and learn a new profession. Especially I would not be motivated to learn a new profession of something what I don't like to do. I mean, can you learn something when you like to do? I mean, that's really hard, and you'll get motivated.
Well, you know, nowadays a lot of people are doing that.
Well, yeah.
Because they're doing it for the money.
Well, that's the wrong.
You know, so it's like
yes.
they don't really love their occupation, but they make a lot of money.
Well, yeah.
You know, so there's not a whole lot of people who do what they love to do, because a lot of times there's a heavy price to pay for following your heart's desire. You don't always make money. Matter of fact, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask you right now. How did you financially survive while you were doing all these athletic things? I mean, I can understand with the professional boxing, because that pays. But what about the other stuff? How did you live?
For example, bicycling for 2 years. I got brought up in Germany, very frugal. My parents had a restaurant, and we never threw anything away. We used all the scrap material, making fresh sauce from scratch. I mean, I learned in a way up that we used to be very resourceful with the stuff that we have available. So also, my parents gave me pocket money and a bank account already when I was a kid. And they said to me, getting every week, like in the 80s, $5. It was not that much money, but it was still enough for a kid. And whatever I want to have, I have candies, I want to have a bicycle, I want to have clothes. Here's your $5 or 5 German marks, what I got in my bank account right away as a kid. Save it up, find yourself a holiday job when you have vacation in between your school years, and make it up. And it was harsh when you think about other kids getting a bicycle from their parents paid, and I had to figure out how to make enough money to pay for my own bicycle with just the pocket money and the jobs I picked up in between the holidays I had as a school teenager. So I learned already in a very young age how to be frugal and how to maintain your money and not spending money what you don't have. So I never use credit cards on credit. I always, if I don't have it, the money, I don't buying it. I save the money as long as I have the money. And especially when you're doing that, you're appreciating what you get for your money. 100% way better.
Because you knew what you sacrificed to get it.
So back to the money spending, when I bicycled for 2 years through North America, I had money saved up because my plan was I had a 1 year return flight ticket, but I didn't plan not more than 6 months. Then I learned about the money I saved up that I can bicycle for 6 months. So the fact I knew I had a 1 year return flight ticket and I already fall in love with North America when I landed in Canada, that I decided I will already stay already the entire year until my return flight goes back. So I knew when I want to stay a year, I have to make up the money. So I picked cherries in Canada. So I was making a little bit money on that. I mean, I was not really making money because it's more like the experience by itself, just to be able out there on top of the cherry tree and picking cherries. The first 3 days you eat a lot of cherries. The fourth day you don't want to eat cherries at all anymore. But the money we made on that day, and I was picking cherries with hippies and punks. So we spent all the money end of the day for the barbecue and all the good stuff.
I remember.
But it's the experience. What I'm saying is, if I would had enough money, if I got sponsored and I had like every month or whatever X amount of dollars available, I wouldn't have had that experience to go picking cherries with hippies and punks. And I would have missed out on the experience, because it's all about the journey. It's about not to getting there. It's not the destination. For me, I think to not have money, I seeing everything in a way better, different perspective, because money is for me just a tool, but to not have enough money, it's for me the challenge to make it work without having the money. And that's for me, because I'm an athlete and I like challenges. For me, when I was working out in my career, I had short, middle and long-term goals. And it's the same with the money. I have a certain amount of money, but I like to have the challenge how to make the money last longer, to prove myself I can do it. Like I can prove myself, I can prove the doctors and the physiotherapists and my parents wrong. I can do still what I think is right for me. And this is my approach. That's the reason I'm going to become a motivational speaker. Listen inside yourself. See what is for you important, not what is for the other people important. See for yourself what you want to do, and not what other people think what you should do. What you want to do in your heart. And that is quite the journey. So you're in the hospital.
they've cut your leg off, and now you're dealing with the fact that it's cut off. You're out of the hospital, you're going to therapy, and you make a decision to walk the Appalachian Trail. What was the thing that triggered that?
Well, I said earlier, I got depression stage 1, not because I lost my leg. I was living back in Germany. I fall in love with North America, with all the open space. And in Germany, everything is more compact and it's more smaller. And so the freedom in me was getting compromised. And of course, living there with my parents again and being treated like the way they remembered me as a teenager, because that's when I left parents, I was 17. I was definitely ready after 8 months to do something to make myself happy again. So I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 2006 with 2 legs, and I knew that would be a very awesome thing to do, because when I was after 8 months, the daily routine was getting really on my nerves. I hate routines, because every day, and then Mondays swim team, and Tuesday physical therapy, and then bicycling in between. So every day was kind of a routine, and I hate a routine. I want to get out of the I almost used the F word. I want to get out of the routine, and I realized, because the fact that I didn't like the routine anymore, I was starting eating way too much comfort food. I was taking way too many pain medications. It was starting raining outside. I had an excuse not to ride my bicycle, so I came up every day with another excuse, because I hated the routine. I know I should do it, but I started coming up with excuses. So at that point, I realized that's not getting better for me, because I'm gaining weight, I'm falling apart, all the exercise what I've done to that point is going downhill again. So the fact that I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, a high long distance hike that goes from Mexico up to Canada, and that took me 6 months, 2,600 miles long. I looked it up online and made some researches, and anybody hiked the Appalachian Trail on a prosthetic leg. When I came across Scott Rogers, who did hike in the early 2000s with a prosthetic leg. He was even not below the knee, he even had a prosthetic leg above the knee.
Oh.
So that's even more difficult, because...
So it was like the whole leg?
Well, above the knee, the whole thing is gone. So you have to charge up the battery, because the knee by itself, that's where you have the electricity involved, and that's the reason you need batteries. And he had to charge up his batteries every 2 days. So
okay, now why did he need electricity?
Well, I have a knee, see?
Yeah, you have a knee.
And he did not have a knee anymore. That's the reason he had a whole different kind of a prosthetic leg.
Okay, but where did the electricity come in?
Well, the electricity is being a motor for the knee, and that has to be charged up, because it's electronic. The knee is electronic, because the fact I have the knee, it's a mechanically prosthetic.
Right, but his was electronic.
Because he missed the knee. His leg was cut off here. My leg is cut off here. You see, I have my entire knee still.
Right, right.
Anyway, so I was able to befriend him over on Facebook, and I messaged him over Messenger to get his phone number, to make a phone call, an interview with him over Skype, because at that point I was still in Germany. So we talked on the phone for like over an hour, and I was asking all the questions I could figure out, and how he managed, how he made it happen, how he got across, how he resupplied, how the gear and everything. So after I talked to him over an hour, I felt very confident. If he can do it with above the knee prosthetic leg, and I still have my knee, then I can do it too. So he gave me enough encouragement that I can do it also, and that's the reason I got all my gear together, and I got my flight back to the United States, and I was ready to set out to hike from Georgia all the way up to Maine. What happened in between was then I had just 40 months after my accident a huge scar tissue on the bottom of my limb. And the scar tissue is very sensitive. The skin is not being toughened up after just 14 months. So what happened was, like the first month already, I got an infection because of my scar tissue, and my limb swelled up.
You're already on the trail at this point.
I'm already on the trail, and the scar tissue went open, and bacteria started getting into my bloodstream, and my limb was swollen up like a baseball. I could not fit anymore in my prosthetic cuff, because the cuff is only the perfect size for the amount of that right now. But if you have like a blister sticking out like a big like a baseball, then you cannot get in that thing anymore in there.
So what did you do?
I was on crutches, and they gave me antibiotics. So after 10 days antibiotics, the swelling got down. And
well, did you continue walking at this point, or did you camp?
No, I got off the trail for 10 days.
You got off the trail?
And I took antibiotics for 10 days. So after 10 days, I was able to fit back in my prosthetic leg again. And then it happened again, like a couple months later in Virginia. And the fact that I was already then again the second time off the trail, I lost so much time in between. And the window hiking from south to north, you only have run about between 4 and 6 months time. So after I realized I cannot make it all the way to Katahdin before it snows, so that's the reason I did the flip-flop. So I hiked halfway point and I drove in a rental car all the way to the ending point and started back south where I left the trail, and that's called the flip-flop. And that's the reason I was able to hike 9.5 months all the way down. I started in March and I hiked all the way in December on 24th.
So you went like halfway, then you went to the end.
I drove to the end in a rental car.
And walked back.
And walked back, so that's all still a whole true hike.
Right,
but a different approach. Instead of going in one continuous direction, you just make it called
so you would not get caught in the snow.
Exactly. So because I had all these setbacks, I had 3 infections, I had to wait for a new leg. Also, what was really good in that point, at halfway point, there's aqua blazing. Aqua blazing means, instead hiking, you get yourself a kayak, and you can kayak over 10 days parallel to the hiking trail on a beautiful river.
Really?
And it was perfect because 10 days giving myself a rest and hiking with my leg to giving a nice rest. And I just had to use my upper body to paddle in a kayak. So it was perfect. But then I realized when you kayak, you're not anymore a true hiker, because you only can call yourself a true hiker if you hike every inch of the entire trail.
Every inch of the way. So you came to the conclusion that doing the kayak was not the true sport.
What do you mean?
It's like, you know, to actually be the hiker, you got to actually be doing the hiking.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me it was the journey. I mean, for me it was perfect in that timing, having a 10-day break from putting weight on my leg. So it was great just using my upper body. But then, in a way, I realized I can pull a record. I can become the first female who ever hiked the entire Appalachian Trail on a prosthetic leg. That never happened before. And it would be a shame by just saying so, oh, I did done the entire distance, but I missed out on like only 200 miles because I didn't hike it, because I kayaked it. The fact that I was doing a flip-flop anyway, and all what I had to do was just continue on the remaining of 200 miles where I kayaked already. So I just kept hiking and made that up, that 200 miles. And then I was able to say, well, here we go. It took me already over 9 months. Now it took me 9.5 months. And I became the first female who did make that entire stretch without cheating in
so
between.
That 200
So
miles?
I did even more. I did hiked and I kayaked it. So I did even more than I supposed to do. But anyway.
But you made up that 200 that you did in the kayak.
That's the reason. My final destination was Glasgow, Virginia, because a friend of mine was already in Waynesboro, where you jump into the water, where you start kayaking. So he wanted to not wait any more longer before I can make it to Waynesboro. There was another 60 miles in between. So he picked me up from Glasgow. So my final destination was Glasgow, where he picked me up to do the kayaking together with me. So I really made that entire stretch, so I didn't cheat it in between.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, now, this part of the interview is basically you're going to see Niki. And you'll be hearing me because I'm still hosting, asking questions. But I really want her to be kind of intimate with you right now, because I think people could get a lot out of what she's about to say. So don't go anywhere. Spirit and Flesh continues. This interview will not stop. Okay. Well, okay. So if right now somebody walked into this room, this studio, and said to you, Niki, I want to give up. It's just too hard. What would you say to them?
Well, it happened to me too. It was very frustrating waking up the next morning and realizing my leg below the knee was gone. So I was in depression and I was grieving and was in acceptance because I was in denial, and I was fighting against the fact to finally to accept that. So it takes several different stages until you reach that state where you cannot change the fact anymore, and you have to come on your own to that conclusion that it's just the way how it is. So you cannot change the matter of the fact. So what you want to do, you want to get even more downhill from there on. You want to become a couch potato. You want to eat more and more comfort food. You want to gain more and more weight. Your life is not getting better at all anymore. It's getting more miserable. You're not meeting people anymore because you closing you off from the outside world. So I didn't want to end up like that. So I said to myself, there's a will, there is a way. I want to prove them all wrong. I will show them that I can walk again. I can walk again also without a cane, and I'll be able to do almost anything and everything what I had done before. When I made that happen, just 14 months later, I showed off that I can hike 2,200 miles from Georgia all the way up to Maine, kind of a flip-flop. I still hiked the entire distance, but it is important that you don't see something devastating, losing a leg below the knee, as an obstacle. I see the way I learned as an athlete, because the only thing I learned was from the competitions I lost, because that's where I gained the most experiences, because it's easy to win, everybody is clapping on your shoulder and giving you a great time, but if you're losing a competition, then you can see who are your real friends are. And I had the opportunity as a young person to make that experience as an athlete and come across that different experiences. So I knew the only thing to get better is to accept the fact, and one door shuts down, another door opens up. And I never thought I will become a motivational speaker. I never thought I'd become an author and writing right now a book. I just finished the book, My Walk to Recovery, Push On. And it should be right now on Amazon, on Kindle, middle end of this year. And people can read and about these experiences, how to push on and how to give up in life.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book itself?
Yeah, the book by itself is a memoir. It tells a little bit about where I came from, how I got brought up in Germany. What we talked earlier, I had to learn how to be frugal with spending my money. I never bought anything on credit, and that's the reason I was able to bicycle for 2 years all over North America. I picked up a couple jobs in between. I was landscaping, I was working in my profession as a chef. So this is what tells a little bit about my background, how to make things work without having the excuse, I cannot do it because I have no money. I think money is only excuse to preventing yourself from doing things. I think money is only a tool, a vehicle, and the fact that I don't have money all the time, I thought I experienced way more color in life, because if I would have had enough money every day, I would maybe get sponsored a month $1,000. I could go into beautiful hotels. I would not probably camped on beautiful spots, and I would met all these incredible people I met in between. I met probably other tourists, but I would not met the local people. So for my understanding is money for me is just a tool, and I don't think money is the most important thing in life to make your dreams come true. And that's what I'm trying to come across. Also something devastating like you losing a leg below the knee, it's not that devastating. I'm still able to walk. I was able 2,200 miles. My life was not over. The only thing I cannot do anymore is skydiving, because I did dislocate my shoulder, and I had shoulder surgery just a couple months ago. You can see this beautiful scar. I'm all scarred up, collecting scars like tattoos. But everything that I did before, I'm doing right now too. The only thing I cannot do anymore is skydiving. It's not because of my leg, because it's my shoulder. So I do scuba diving again. I've been surfed back in Germany again. I motorbike even again, because I had an electronic shifter installed on my motorbike. So everything that I've done before, I'm still doing. It's a little bit more challenging, a little bit more pain in the point, but besides that, everything is manageable, and there's a will, there is a way. Just push on, like my book. Push on, My Walk to Recovery on the Appalachian Trail.
Now, you strike me as a person that's always looking for one more goal to reach.
I'm already on my third bucket list.
Oh, a third bucket list?
Already on my third bucket list.
What can we look to see you doing next?
So here in Hawaii, the main reason I came down to Hawaii because I had my shoulder in a sling. I was not able to use my arm at all. I had too many toys in Colorado, my motorbike, my bicycles, and too many distractions who prevented me from writing the book. So I came down to Hawaii because I had a friend of mine here who invited me to stay here. And that gave me enough solitude to finishing up my book, what I just done 2 weeks ago. So now the manuscript, my editor is working, because he has to translate my German English into proper English. So it's up to my editor right now. So he's limping behind me right now, but on my side the book is done. But I think he should be able to pull it off middle of end of this year, and I have the book ready by then. And see, if you don't make plans too far ahead, you have opportunities to jump on things you didn't plan onto it. And that's what I like to do, because all of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, a new opportunity popped up. I'm be able to be a deckhand on a beautiful sailboat. So in 1 week from now on, I will sail all the way down to French Polynesia on a sailboat and cruising around the islands. And we have scuba diving gear, scuba dive tanks. I just done with the university my advanced scuba diving class, so I'm up to date with scuba diving again. And this time I learned my lesson. I always double check my gear.
Safety first.
Safety first.
Yeah. So, Niki, before we even began the interview, you let me know that there was something you really wanted to say to my listeners, my viewers, at the end of the interview.
Yeah, I mean, if you're feeling really down and you need something to look up to get inspired, maybe you want to check out my website, www.niki, N-I-K-I, my last name RELLON.com. And here you can see what you can do also if you're missing a leg below the knee. I motorbiked, there's a bunch of pictures, there's a bunch of interviews, there's a bunch of footage from the hike by itself. And there's the first chapter already you can read on my website, my Walk to Recovery and Push On. So the first chapter is for free on my website. So if you want to look up onto something, just check out my website to maybe get inspired. Never give up in life, always push on.
A word from Michelle. Don't ever give up. No matter what. That's right. No matter what happens, if you are still breathing, if you're still living, you have an opportunity to give it another shot. Give it another try. Don't ever give up. And don't never let anybody tell you that you can't. I personally do not believe in the word can't. I personally don't believe in the words, 2 words, cannot. Now, it may take you 100 tries. It may take you 1,000 tries. But let me tell you something. You got all the way up until the very moment that you pass away from this life to make it happen. Now, once you pass on, I guess the show's over. But up until then, you got to give it a try. You cannot give up. Nowadays, we got people with no legs running races. How about that? We got people with no eyes painting pictures. And don't forget that fella from that Kentucky Fried Chicken place. He went around for years and said, you know, everybody told him, no, we don't think so. It ain't gonna happen. We're not investing in that. Forget it. He never gave up. And now he's got a worldwide chain. Look at Sylvester Stallone. He walked around with Rocky under his arm for years and years and years. And everybody said, maybe we'll do it, but we don't think you need to be the star. We need to get us a bona fide star. Then we'll invest. Rocky said, Sylvester said, nope, 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 I don't think so. I wrote it for me. I'm gonna be the star. And everybody continued to say, we don't think so. We're not investing. But he never gave up. And one day, somebody said, all right, let's do it. And let's do it your way, the way you want it done. And the rest is history. How many Rocky movies is out there? How many other movies has he made? The man is a success. Why? Because he never gave up. And before it's over, I am going to be successful in every way that I want to be successful is. Why? Because I am never giving up. And I'm saying to you out of love and compassion, because whoever you are listening to this, watching this, I love you. And because I love you, I'm telling you now, don't ever give up. Never, ever, ever. Don't even think about it. I know you're going to get upset. I know you're going to get angry. I know you're going to get downtrodden. Oh, I don't think I can do it. Oh, it's just kind of hard. Oh, I'm so mad. Why don't it work? Why don't it work? And go through all of that. Deal with your emotions. Up, down, sideways, on an angle sometimes. Throw your arms up and feel like giving up. But don't ever give up. Never, 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 never. Don't ever give up. There's another way, and you'll find it. Oh, that didn't work? There's another way, and you'll find it. Don't ever give up. You are too worthwhile. No matter who you are, everybody in this world has something to do and something to contribute to our world. So do you. Don't ever give up. Not ever. Word from Michelle. Okay, so everybody has seen me on this show, and I'm pushing positive things, trying to say positive things, you know, trying to get positivity out there in the world. Well, there are those of you who is start again. Take 2. 5, 4, 3. Word from Michelle. Okay, so you have seen me, witnessed me on this show, you know, pushing forward a whole bunch of positive things. Okay, now there are those of you who have seen me outside of this show, and you've seen me mad as heck. Okay, first off, let me say I'm a human being and I'm not perfect. The other thing is I want to clear something up. You may have heard me say America is a sick place. Now, I'm going to tell you, I really do believe that. America is a sick place. Truly it is. Too much sickness going on mentally, psychologically, physically. America's a sick place. That's why I do Spirit and Flesh. Because although I do believe that America is a sick place, I also believe that we have the opportunity before us to become the great nation that we can become. And that's why I do Spirit and Flesh. I bring forward insights, ideas, truth that could help us come together and create the great America that we have the potential to be. So don't think that I'm down on America and I just hate the place. I dislike the way the country's run, and I dislike how the people are hurt and the poor are stepped on and the homeless are pushed out of wherever they're at. All that's not necessary. There's enough housing in this country for everybody. There's enough food for everybody. There's enough jobs for everybody if we can get past this greed of money. Yes, America is a sick place. And yes, we have an opportunity before us to come together with love, compassion, and intelligence and create the America that can be great and wonderful for everybody, not just a few. Every single person can be living large here in America because we got all it takes for everybody to live large. Yes, I do believe America is a sick place. Yes, I do believe that we have an opportunity and the resources to make it a great country. Word from Michelle.
Hi, it's me, Vera, and this is from the heart. I would like to talk to you about being in a positive relationship. Being in a positive relationship means letting go of your past hurts and pains, not bringing them into the relationship that you have now. Or if you're starting out with a relationship, you should have dealt with your hurts and pains first, because that helps to not mess up the relationship or hurt the relationship that you're trying to get into. And don't let it hurts and pains become a problem once you're in the relationship within the year or two of having it. Michelle, he has had bad dreams from his past relationships, and he has not let it affect our marriage. We have a good and positive special bond. We have a good relationship, good marriage. I love Michelle very much, and we are both in love with each other. He's helped me to deal with my hurts and pains that I had not let go of, and I'm very grateful to him for helping me through some past hurts and pains, because I've had a lot of them. So, you want to have a positive relationship? Just be who you are, and don't be afraid of the person that you're with, because evidently, since you're with that person, they're your best friend, not just your boyfriend or your girlfriend, husband or wife, your life partner. But like I said, him or her is your best friend. You have a problem, go to that person and talk to them, and that helps to maintain and progress the bond that you guys have. Thank you for watching.